Today we're finishing up with SEMA 2023 with our fabulous 450 SEL 6.9 and the Rolls Silver Shadow that both just completed a Cannonball run at high speed from New York to LA, and they are about to go back on a truck. And we're also finishing up with my good friend Ed here, helping him with a couple things on his new Lamborghini Diablo. So we're gonna pack these up and send them back to Atlanta, and we'll get continued there. Thank you all.
Didn't even do head count, all of them?
Hey y'all, welcome back to DC Motorworks. Thank you all for tuning in. Today we're going to show you this Rolls and this Mercedes that we use to reincarnate two Cannonball icons. Let's check them out. So for those of you that aren't familiar, Cannonball is a high-speed race as fast as you can from New York to LA. And for the 40th anniversary of one of these events called the US Express, my good friend Taylor Hull put on an event for any cars 84 and older that wanted to participate. And in Cannonball history, in 1979, a 450 SEL 6.9 was only 8 minutes behind the first place winner in a Jag XJS. And then if any of y'all have seen the movie, you know that the Sheik drove a Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow in the movie. So my good friend Ed Bolian from VinWiki picked this one up. And I actually picked this one up a little over a year ago from one of my clients for a different event called the Southern Classic, which is also put on by Taylor Hull. And that is a reincarnation of the Smokey and the Bandit run from Atlanta to Texarkana and back. So that was kind of a prep run for this car to prepare it for what was coming, the US Express. But let's go ahead and show you around what we did to these two to get them ready for this event. So we'll start with the Mercedes here. So like I said, this is my 1979 Mercedes-Benz 450 SEL 6.9. So this was the successor to the 300 SEL 6.3. This is equipped with the M100 V8, which was originally released in the 600 limousine and then later put into the smaller 109 chassis 300 SEL. And this was the last car that it was installed in when it was punched out to 6.9, or actually 6.8 liters, and called a 6.9, with a newly developed what they call HPF suspension, which is a hydropneumatic suspension system that uses no springs, similar to the system that Citroën developed. So all there is hydraulic ram or shock absorber at each corner, pressurized by hydraulic fluid, and 4 nitrogen accumulators, 1 at each shock, and then a pressure accumulator, a 5th one, to support the suspension. So again, there are no springs, and it has leveling front and rear. So that was one of the big draws to using one of these, is with the extra weight and everything in the back with extra fuel, that the suspension can compensate for that, and you don't get the squat that you would in a static suspension car. The ride is also superb. A little soft for this style of event, but it does work out very well. You can see some of the stickers from the events, the Southern Classic and the US Express. We open the trunk here, see some of the goodies we've got in here. So these are twin 19-gallon fuel cells, and with the 100-liter factory tank, this gives us about 64 gallons of total fuel capacity. And these are run into the filler neck of the factory fuel tank there. And then on each side here, we've got transfer pumps that are a very low flow rate, just to pump fuel slowly back into the factory tank while you're running. Everything is controlled by relay boxes. See, we went for a classic modified look. So this is a US spec car, but it has been equipped with all the original Euro fittings. So it has Euro headlights and bumpers, front and back. Went with the period correct Ronal or Pinta wheels. And we did adjust the links on the suspension a little bit to give this a bit of a lowered look, which we think came out very well. You can see here, got 4 additional lights. So we've got 2 fog light driving lights, and then 1 is pointed towards the ditch to watch for wildlife, and the other one points straight ahead for distance. You can see one of the cool little tidbits about this event is we actually used a time clock. You can see the punch here and the punch there. Of course, in a hurry, didn't quite get them lined up just right, but that allowed us to accurately track the time. This one did 30 hours and 56 minutes. So that puts us at an average speed of almost 92 miles an hour across the whole little over 2,800 mile trip from Manhattan to Los Angeles. The rolls here, see, it's a little more subdued, but we did install some driving lights here. This one did not get additional fuel or anything of that nature. It was just going for a commemorative run, you could say. See, it is a proper right-hand drive rolls. There's your control for your driving lights. We also did add some additional safety here by running a tachometer and a coolant temperature gauge, as from the factory, the Rolls is not equipped with either. All you get for temperature is a warning light here and nothing for engine speed. Of course, we did run all kinds of extra fluids. As is with many old cars, it does tend to leak. So these 2 cars actually do have almost exactly the same size of engine. So this is 6 3/4 liters, or 6.75, whereas properly the 6.9 is a 6.8 liter engine. Carbureted here by twin SU carburetors. Mercedes is CIS mechanical fuel injection. So for this one we did a full tune-up, so it got cap, rotor, plugs, wires. The cooling system was actually full of mud, rust, and sediment, so we pulled the radiator and had it gone through. And it was actually so bad that the heater valve, which lives right down here, was completely clogged and we had no heat. So we were able to free it up some, but then we actually got heat all the time. So we put an additional valve here so that you can limit the amount of heat you get. And this is your reservoir for your brakes and your rear self-leveling. Runs off the brake fluid, which is a very particular .3 style fluid, but it actually is the RR363 fluid, which is actually no longer available, and all you can get is a reproduction fluid. And you can see it here. So .3 can be used in a pinch, but it is troublesome on the seals and so forth in the system. And this one does leak, unfortunately. But we have the correct fluid for it now. Let's see the timestamp for this one here. And it did it in a time of 36 hours and 10 minutes, which was perfectly adequate for an average speed of about 78 miles an hour. Some of the other prep for this car, got all fresh belts, fresh alternator, just anything we could do to make sure it was ready for 4,000 miles of abuse, which it did. Here back to the 6.9. This one got a lot more prep than the Rolls, as we knew we wanted to do the best we could on this event, and we actually won the event and set a new competitive event record time. So this car has gotten, I'm a little embarrassed to say how much money has gone into this, but it did what it was supposed to do. Got the door panel off here, as the day before we left for New York, the window got stuck down. But we've got that all back together now, and I just need to put the door panel on. Here you can see, we've got two phones for running Waze and highway radar. Got our Garmin for tracking our time, speed, and everything. And we've got this cool piece of kit here. So this is our control panel for all of our lighting, fuel, etc. So this all communicates with a module down in the passenger footwell there to trigger the relays for each of these items. So these are our 4 lights across the top, and then this triggers the spotlight as a flash, which we can show you here. That way you can get the attention of the drivers in front of you. There's our engine fans here, because we did ditch the clutch fan and went to an electric. We got our 2 fuel tanks. This is our driver's side, passenger side fuel tank to transfer fuel into the factory tank. See, we got all kinds of power outlets. We've also got this neat little trick here, which actually goes in the factory switch location of the fader for the stereo. That's no longer in use. We do have a factory Becker Mexico radio, and it has been modified with Bluetooth, so you can listen to your own music. But this is actually an exhaust valve in the muffler, so we can go between loud and somewhat quiet. We got all of our accessory gauges. So we've got an amp meter to see if we're charging the battery or pulling battery voltage, depending on how many accessories are running. We've got an additional coolant temperature gauge. Sorry, that's oil temperature and coolant temperature next to it. And then our 2 fuel tanks, we can switch with that back there. Switch between the 2 fuel tanks and see what our fuel levels are in our auxiliary tanks. So we have our unit in radar detector. Actually, a neat part of this trip, it actually hit 69,000 miles while we were on our run. The big important piece here is this guy right here. So this car was originally equipped with a 3-speed automatic with no overdrive and no lockup torque converter, which we knew from the Southern Classic running at 4,000 and 5,000 RPM for the whole trip was a lot of stress, and is also very fuel thirsty at that RPM. So you have a custom made 6-speed Getrag transmission here with 2 overdrive gears. So the top 6th gear is a 0.64 overdrive, allowing us to run a little over or right at 3,000 RPM at 130 miles an hour, which gained us 2 to almost 3 miles to gallon more than the automatic at speed, as well as a 10% horsepower and torque increase at the wheels by having a direct drive. See here, we've got our automatic climate control. We've also got what we'll show you. Got 2 different sets of tail lights. So we've got LED and the factory incandescent to run 2 different light profiles. We also have a plate flipper here to flip between the vintage tag and the current tag, both of which are registered. It just gives us the option of running both. So here we have the mighty 6.9 M100. Actually, they had to modify this chassis a good bit in order to fit this motor. And it actually runs a dry sump oiling system because of the size of this motor. Here's your suspension reservoir here and the hydraulic pump for that. See, we did delete the heavy mechanical clutch fan and just ran the electrics, which helped free up some power. Other than that, we've got the warm-up regulator replacement. This is by USCIS. It is to replace the warm-up regulator, which makes the fuel control pressure a lot more consistent and less troublesome. Other than that, it just got basic maintenance. Put a fresh set of injectors. It's had cap and rotor and so forth, but no other major modifications. We did do a full exhaust system, as I said, with the valved muffler. So this car would happily sit at 120, 130 miles an hour for hours on end. So it would do about 10, 11 miles to the gallon compared to the 8 that we did on the Southern Classic. Both cars made it without any major hiccups. Of course, we had to add some fluids and had some other little things here and there. But both live up to their name for being 44 and 47 years old. So here in the front lobby of our shop, you can see our banners from these 2 events. And these 2 trophies, this one and this one, are from the Southern Classic. On our other wall here, got all of our Fenwicky Car Trek merchandise. And these are the 2 trophies from the US Express. See, it is the Rick Doherty Memorial Trophy, which is who put on the event in 1983. So we hope you all enjoyed looking at these 2 icons here. And thank you all for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you on the next video. And if you have anything you want to see or any comments, suggestions, feel free to leave them below. We do enjoy reading all of them. We look forward to seeing you on the next video.